Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Igniting the Fire podcast. My name is Noah Olson. It is such a privilege to be able to be with you here today. I hope that everyone is doing well, and I'm so glad that you're able to join this podcast and able to be a part of this wonderful episode that we have for you today. The Igniting the Fire podcast is overseen by the Piedmont Church of Christ in Piedmont, Alabama. You can come and visit us. We would encourage you to do so at 105 Memorial Drive here in Piedmont, Alabama, 36272. And you will be delighted and you will be filled and you will not regret your attendance here. We meet at 9:30 a.m. on Sunday mornings for Bible class, Bible study. We currently are studying the book of Isaiah, and so it's been it's been rich, it's been wonderful. I've gleaned so much from it, and we're not done yet. We still have, as of this recording, I think 16 chapters or something such as that left, and so we're ready. We're excited. I know that I get excited for it, and would encourage you to think about attending. We also meet at 10:30 a.m. for worship and 5 p.m. for worship on Sunday. And I would encourage you to look at that. And you will find here at the Church of Christ that we are not a denomination. We are the church that is founded in the New Testament. We do not go by any creeds. We are not part of an organization. We are simply the New Testament church, the one that Jesus established in Acts chapter 2. And so when you think about, the Church of Christ, you will find that we just follow the Bible. We sing a cappella, and everything we do is from the Bible. And so we encourage you to come and visit us. Again, you won't miss that. We also meet at 7 p.m. for Bible study. And we currently are studying on Wednesday nights how to study our Bibles. That is actually going to be concluding in probably a few weeks. And so we're going to be diving into a book study as well. And so would encourage you to think about attending that. Just a few thoughts before we get into kind of our topic of today. I would encourage you to reach or to go out or look at the Words Written on the Heart. Words Written on the Heart was created in 2024, and it was simply a website that currently exists to help Christians know the gospel and be encouraged, to uplift, to enlighten Christians through written means. So on the website are Bible articles, Bible tracts that you can download and print yourself, or you can order them and they will be sent to you for free. There's also Bible blogs from the Heart blog, where you can find articles written by women, for women, by preachers, and by simply Christian men. And so I would encourage you to look at that, and hopefully you'll be encouraged by those things. There's also something called For As He Thinks in His Heart newsletter, and that is sent out or will be sent out. The first email will be July the 7th. Mondays, the first and the third Mondays of the month, and so two times a month, emailed newsletter sent out that includes one Bible article, 3 things to remember or to remind yourself of, some things that are for self-improvement, for mental health, and help us be better people, and then 5 Bible marking tips. And so I would encourage you to subscribe to that. Just go to wordswrittenontheheart.org and you'll find all that information. I'm so glad and so thankful that is available. So let's dive right into our question. This is the last episode of our series, Questions Rarely Asked. Some of them are probably not rarely asked questions. Most of them are, but we've looked at a lot. We've looked at where do we go when we die? Do we go to Hades, or do we go to heaven or hell? Obviously, everyone will go to heaven or hell, but what about now? Waiting for the judgment. We also talked about the man of sin. Who is this man of sin in 2 Thessalonians 3? We've discussed, various questions, about about a lot of things. And so we're so thankful that we have another time that we get together and talk about a Bible subject like this. Our question today is: do I have to evangelize to go to heaven? Do I have to evangelize to go to heaven? Have you ever had anyone ask you that? And we think about that question: do I have to evangelize to go to heaven? Is a very, very important question, because there is heaven in it. Going to heaven, how I get there, questions about heaven, questions about one's soul, anything that has to do with your soul, and questions regarding it. That is the most important thing that you could ever ask, right? There's three questions that you could ask, or there's the three most important questions of life: from where did I come? Why am I here? And where am I going? Now, the third question, where am I going, is going to be dependent on how you answer number two, right? Why am I here? Well, some say I'm here to fulfill lust of the flesh. Some say I'm here to make a name for myself. Some people say I'm here to change the world. But Ecclesiastes 12:13 says the whole duty of man is to fear God and keep his commandments. That's why I'm here. And so if I do that, if I answer the second question right, then the third question is already answered. I'm going to go to heaven. But sometimes we muddy the water in our path to heaven. Sometimes we might not see everything as clearly as we ought because we're not willing to. We're not willing to look at the commands of God and see that. Is non-evangelism looked upon as sinful in the church? Well, before I ask that question, let me say this: that I am not the standard for this. Jesus is the standard, and I say I'm not because I struggle with this. I'm not the best at this. I could be better. I need to be better, and I want to be better at this. And I fail at times in evangelism. But when we think about evangelism, is non-evangelism looked upon as sinful in the church? When people think about people not going out and spreading the gospel, is it, well, it's not really required, or is it, if we don't go evangelize, we're going to be lost? You ever had somebody come forward and say, I need prayers. I haven't been evangelizing enough. I haven't been evangelizing at all. Has a congregation withdrawn from? What about this situation? Someone brought this up to me. I don't think it happened, but he said, have you ever had elders say, hey, can we talk to you for a minute? And they pull you in their office. They say, hey, we're a little concerned about you. You haven't been evangelizing. Have you ever had elders do that? Probably not. Maybe. I hope so. Maybe that is the case. But why not? Because we might not think that evangelism is as important. We just don't act like it does oftentimes, and we can't do that. As Christians, we can't do that. How many Christians could say that they have had Bible studies? I don't know about you, but could you say that you've had a Bible study? Have you ever had a Bible study? That's a good question to ask, and it's something that would warrant good thought. Is that, can I skip out on telling others about Jesus? Can I, just not tell other people about Jesus and still go to heaven? Can I do that? I mean, imagine the conversation with you and Jesus at judgment. And you get there and you say, Jesus, I love you. I obeyed your will. I want to go to heaven, but I didn't tell anyone about it. I wonder I know how that conversation would go. But why don't we teach that? Why aren't we looking at that? Why aren't we feeling the need or seeing the need to do so? Sometimes we can be guilty of putting values to God's commands, like the Pharisees, right? Matthew 23, woe to you scribes and Pharisees. You're so stuck on paying tithe, mint, and all of that, which ought not to be left undone. You need to do that. But you're forgetting the weightier matters of the law, like justice and judgment and mercy. And can we be guilty of that? I think we can. Is Bible study important? Is worship important? Absolutely. And sometimes we think that, well, as long as I'm at worship and as long as the deacon that checks off the box, or whoever checks off the attendance, as long as I'm checked off on the roll, then I'm faithful. Who said that? Last time I checked, the Bible does not define faithfulness by being at church. The Bible defines faithfulness as doing everything that you can to please God. Is personal prayer as important as the command to sing without? There are many books about mechanical instruments in worship. Many books, right? Articles have been written, sermons have been preached, and we are so thankful. We need those sermons. We have to have those sermons because there are some churches in the brotherhood that are failing in that and are teaching liberalistic ideologies there with allowing mechanical instruments. There's only one instrument that may be allowed in the worship assembly. That's the harp. But when we think about commands, do we say, well, it's not as important to pray as it is not to have mechanical instruments and music in worship. It's more important that we focus on not having instruments and music in worship than we focus on our prayer life. Says who? It's more important that I make sure that I'm there for worship than for me to read my Bible every day. Says who? It's more important that I live holy than to evangelize. Says who? And who says that if I fail to evangelize, I'm still holy? What if I don't evangelize? What if I'm not going out and taking the gospel to the world as I ought? Can I say that I'm holy? Romans 10:15 says that feet are beautiful. What feet? Evangelistic feet. But if I have unevangelistic feet, then what does that make me? What are unevangelistic feet? So why is this question asked? Do I have to evangelize? And this is like the question, do I have to go to worship, or how many Bible studies do I, how long do I have to study? Do I have to? You have the cure to save a soul. We ought not to be asking, do I have to do it? We should be excited to do it. There was a point made in a Bible class recently. I've never really thought of it, and it really struck me. I really enjoyed the thought, is that our faithfulness, our spark for God, is going to be determined in how ready we are to spread the gospel. I think that's true. Now, obviously, there are times when we go through distress, and God understands that. But our faithfulness will be determined how much we're willing to spread the gospel. How much are you willing to spread? How much effort and support are you willing to put in evangelistic works? This question, do I have to evangelize to go to heaven, is rarely asked, but it seems to be frequently practiced, as people just ask it all the time. A lot of people don't do it. It's asked for a number of reasons. Maybe because people just don't want to do it. People don't want to go out and teach. I mean, I work 8 to 5 every day, and then I got to come home and I have a Bible study. I'm not ready. I don't want to do that. Well, why not do that? You're helping a soul. I heard one preacher who made it a goal. I don't know, if he always did this, but he said, at least that he tried to get a Bible study once a week. Now, imagine if we could do that as a church. Let's say, for instance, you have a congregation of 100 people. And let's say, 50 of those, let's just say 50 people, because you got married people and, kids and all that. Let's say you have 50 different Bible studies a week. 50 different Bible studies. And you go through back to the Bible, which I've heard has about a 90% success rate. So you're what, 45 people? Imagine converting 45 people a month. Let's just say a month. 45 people a month. You have a church that's over 450 people. Almost to 500, if not 500. Actually, it would be 500, wouldn't it? 500 people that you've converted. If every single person in the congregation had a Bible study. People just don't want to do it. Number 2, people are afraid to do it. This is one of the things about evangelism, and it's people sometimes be scared. I just don't know enough, and you combat that with, are you a Christian? And they say yes. Then you know enough, right? You knew enough on how to become a Christian, so just go tell other people what you did, right? And I think that's important. I think it's very important. People ought not to be afraid to do it. In fact, Revelation 21, we focus so much on verse number 8 with the lying there, right? Liars go to hell, all liars. But the first sin there is the fearful. The fearful. The fearful will be lost as well. And what does that include? I think that includes those who are fearful to do the will of God. Probably those who, are fearful of persecution and give up their lives, but, or give up, Christianity for their lives, but we ought not to be fearful. Number 3, because it's hard. Is evangelism hard? It's laborious. It's not like rocket science, but it demands effort. It demands work. You're going to have to talk to somebody for 3 hours or 2, 3. Have someone to your house Monday nights or Tuesday nights and invite them over for 2.5, 3 hours. So you have a meal and then you have your Bible study and then you leave. Imagine if people just did that once a week. Let's just even maybe brought it once a month. Let's say we converted that every person had someone over to their house once a month and talked about the Bible. You have over 100 people converted maybe a year. People answer this question: do I have to evangelize to go to heaven in a variety of ways? The atheist says, no, you don't have to evangelize to go to heaven because there is no heaven. Well, the atheist is wrong. The universalist says no, because everyone goes to heaven, right? Why do I have to evangelize? If the universalist is true, I don't know why I'm taking time to go out and spread the gospel. Now, Christians are not atheists. Christians believe in heaven. Christians are not universalists. They believe in hell. They believe that there is a hell that people will go to. So why am I not going? Why am I not going out and taking the gospel? If I have the cure, and if someone's soul, if they were to die at this second, they would be lost for eternity, and I have the cure to save them. Reminds me of the song, he never mentioned him to me. The pessimist says no, because no one will want to go to heaven. Well, that's not true. People want to go to heaven. Then the Christian says yes, because while everyone can go to heaven, they're in danger of hell. We have to start addressing this question again. This question, can I go to heaven and not evangelize, is like asking the question, can I be healthy and eat ice cream all day? If I jump out of an airplane without a parachute, I'll still live, right? Well, I'll be safe going down the highway 120 miles an hour, right? No. We have to get back to evangelism. We have to. Now, what is meant by evangelism? The word, according to one, means the activity of persuading people to become Christians, often by traveling around and telling people about your beliefs. Very simple. Just talking about Jesus. I heard one preacher say, he used to get mad that people say, you preach, people joke, right? You preachers don't work it. You work 3 hours a week. And he used to get mad at that. He used to combat that and try to defend himself. And then he said, well, I stopped defending myself. And people say, man, you got an easy job. And this preacher said, yes, you know what I do? I get to brag on Jesus. I get to brag on Jesus. That's true. That's simply event. You're just talking about the good news. Evangelion, evangelism. The word does not occur in the Bible. Evangelism doesn't occur in the Bible. The concept surely does. The thrust of evangelism comes from a couple of Greek words. Number one is kerusso, which means to herald, means to proclaim a message. Mark 16:15, you find that. Going into all the world and kerusso, the gospel. Preach the gospel. Herald the gospel. You are herald. Evangelizo, the word means to bring good news. Luke 8:1. Katangelo, the word means to tell abroad. That's your audience. And then laleo means to speak. And so evangelism is simply sharing the gospel. But we need to remember that it's twofold. Now, if you'll go with me to Acts chapter 20. Acts chapter 20 in verse number 20. This is 2020 vision. Acts 20 and verse number 20. Paul said this. He says, and how I kept back nothing that was profitable unto you, but have showed you and have taught you publicly. So firstly, evangelism in a sense is public teaching, right? Somebody gets up the pulpit, Somebody does that publicly. But number two, and from house to house. Then there's also, and this is where the thrust of our lesson is the house to house. We want to sit across the kitchen table. We want to get across the restaurant, table. We want to have someone over to our house so we can have a Bible study, not a lesson, not a sermon, not a Bible class. We want to sit down with both of us. We'll have open Bibles and we'll just look at what the Bible has to say about how to be saved. Paul taught them publicly, but he did not forget to remind them that he taught from house to house. And that's the one we miss so much, is going from house to house, from this way to that way. And our goal is to get people around a kitchen table where we can converse about the Bible. Now, I thought about some scriptures or some examples in Scripture about Jesus or the apostles who were like not in a pulpit. So, for instance, Luke 5:29, Jesus was in his own house. In his own house, I think. Luke 5:29 says, Levi made him a great feast in his own house. Jesus was in Levi's house. And the Republicans and others that sat down with him. What about Luke 19:5? You have Zacchaeus there. Jesus says, I must abide where? At thy house. Jesus wanted to talk to him. It was not, I'm going to stand up at a pulpit and talk to you, Zacchaeus. I want to converse with you. I want to sit down and level with you. What about John 4:6? You have Jesus by Jacob's well. He's not at a pulpit. He's not proclaiming a sermon. He's got all these people. He's one-on-one with the woman, the Samaritan woman. And then Acts 16:13-14. Now, this might be maybe a sermon here, but they were by the riverside. And so preaching is not just the preacher's job. It's everyone's job, every Christian's responsibility to invite people to their home, to go to a park, to meet at a coffee shop, to study at a restaurant. Just open the Bible together. Now, 3 questions. When was the last time that you sat and asked, when was the last time you asked someone for a Bible study at your home or a local public place? When was the last time that you verbally asked someone? Number 2, when was the last time you had a Bible study at a public place or your home? Just 2 questions, not 3. The early church was evangelistic. Look at Acts 5. Acts 5 and verse 42 says this. It says, and daily in the temple and in every house they ceased not to teach and preach Jesus Christ. They kept on. Oftentimes we are nowhere. Oftentimes we're in our pews. We think that we're good, we're faithful, but we don't do anything. I have to get back up. We have to try again. We have to keep on keeping on. Who needs this message? Who needs to be told to go? Preachers need to go. They can't stay in their offices. Elders need to go. They can't be so busy, but they have to go. All members, their lives cannot be so busy that they forget the command from Jesus. Jesus told people, I think this is interesting. Jesus told people sometimes not to tell others. Like in Mark chapter 7, verse 36, says, and he charged them that they should tell no man. But the more he charged them, so much the more a great deal they published it. Jesus told people, no, don't go tell people about me yet. But they responded with go. Jesus tells us to go, and we say what? No. Mark 16:15. Now it's interesting. Jesus says, go ye into all the world and preach the gospel. Not it would be a good idea, not when you have some downtime, not when you feel like it. Go, as you're into the world, go preach the gospel. That command is just as applicable then as it is today. Does the world still exist? Yes. Is the gospel still the saving power? Yes. Do creatures need to be saved? Yes. Then what stops us from fulfilling this command? No one has to be a preacher to go to heaven. But if you want to go to heaven, you have to be a teacher. You have to be a teacher. Doesn't mean you have to stand up and women aren't allowed to stand publicly, in front of men and in an assembly and teach. We know that. But they no doubt can have one-on-one Bible studies. Acts 18:26. The early church was said to have the world turned upside down. Acts 17:6. The church, not just preachers, not elders, not just deacons. But look at Acts 8 and verse number 4. Notice what's said. It says, therefore, that they that were scattered abroad. Well, who was scattered abroad? The church was scattered abroad. They went everywhere preaching the word. Look at Acts 11. Acts 11, 19 through 20 says this, now they which were scattered abroad upon the persecution that arose about Stephen traveled as far as Phoenice and Cyprus and Antioch, preaching the word to none but unto the Jews only. And some of them, which were men of Cyprus and Cyrene, which when they were come to Antioch, spake unto, sorry, I lost the verse there, the Grecians, preaching the Lord Jesus Christ. Lord Jesus. Many others as well, like Paul and Barnabas taught as well. And so the scriptures are full of passages that would answer this question. Let's go through a few. Do I have to go to heaven to evangelize? Solomon would say yes. Look at Proverbs 11. Proverbs 11, verse number 30 says, the fruit of the righteous is a tree of life, and he that wins souls is wise. Solomon would say yes. You want to go to heaven? You need to evangelize. Isaiah would say yes. Isaiah chapter 6. Isaiah 6 and verse number 8, who would go for us? And also I heard the voice of the Lord, verse 8, saying, whom shall I send and whom will go for us? Who's going to take the gospel? Then said I, Isaiah, here am I, he said, send me. Ezekiel in Ezekiel chapter 3 and verse number 18, as God is telling him, he says, when I say unto the wicked, thou shalt surely die, and you give them not warning. Simply, I'm telling them they're going to die, and you don't bring that message to them. You get the illustration. There, people are in danger of hell, and you don't take the message to them, nor speak to warn the wicked from his wicked way to save his life. The same wicked man shall die in his iniquity, but his blood, I'm going to require your hand. Ezekiel, if you don't warn people, I'm going to blame you as well. We would be blamed as well. Ezekiel would say, no, you can't go to heaven unless you evangelize. Do I have to evangelize to go to heaven? Do I have to evangelize to go to heaven? Solomon would say yes. And I think I said no earlier when I meant to say yes. Solomon would say yes. Isaiah would say yes. Ezekiel would say yes. Paul would say yes. Look at Romans chapter 1. Romans 1:15. So as much as in me is, I'm ready to preach the gospel to you that are Rome also. He says in verse 14, I'm a debtor. Look at 1 Corinthians 9. 1 Corinthians 9 and verse number 16. Absolutely. For though I preach the gospel, I have nothing to glory of, for necessity is laid upon me. Yea, woe is unto me if I preach not the gospel. Woe is unto me if I don't preach the gospel. Paul, do I have to evangelize to go to heaven? You better evangelize. You better take the gospel. Acts chapter 4 and verse 20. Acts 4:20 says, for we cannot but speak the things which we have seen and heard. Peter would have said absolutely. And then John would have said absolutely. In Revelation 21:8, about that fearful there. The Samaritan woman, look at John chapter 4. The Samaritan woman, she would have said yes. She would have said yes. Verses 28 and following, the woman then left her water pot and went her way into the city. And she's telling people about Jesus. Come, see a man which told me all things that ever I did. Is not this the Christ? Then they went out of the city and came unto him. She would say yes. In order to go to heaven, you have to tell others about how good Jesus is and what he can do for you. And then Jeremiah would have said it. Jeremiah 20, verse number 9. You know what, Lord, I'm going to quit. Lord, I'm done. I'm in derision. I can't preach the gospel anymore, but his word was in my heart. It's a burning fire. Shut up in my bones, he says, and I was weary with forbearing. I could not stay. I had to preach the gospel. It was like Gus Nichols on his deathbed. He tried to get up, and his son said, no, you can't get up. He says, I got to preach the gospel. If you have the cure to cancer and did not share it with anyone, would you expect to get the mansion at the top of the hill, or would you expect to be imprisoned? What if you performed every job from the boss, but neglected to do the one of the most important ones for the company? Would you expect to stay there for long? If you do not take the gospel to the world, one of the last commands, if not really the last command by Jesus while he was on earth, and you don't fulfill that, don't expect to go to heaven. James 2 verse 10 says, "For whosoever shall keep the whole law and yet offend in one point, he is guilty of all. Lord, I do everything, but I don't like to evangelize. So, I mean, the good I do will outweigh the one bad, right? Not according to James." I think when we see the blessings of evangelism, we're not going to ask this question: do I have to evangelize? We're going to do it. When we see what evangelism does, we're not going to give an excuse from evangelism. We're going to give an excuse to evangelism. The blessings of evangelism are too good to be downplayed. Souls are etched in heaven's book of life. That's blessing number one. You get to, as you are studying with that person, and as that soul goes down to the water, another name is added in the book of life, and you get to help with it. You get to imagine, I helped a soul get to be immersed in his name or her name in the book of life. I got to help with that. It's not pride. But it's a fulfilling of satisfaction and joy. But if you never teach, souls won't be added. Number two is personal workers only grow in their knowledge, their social skills, their presentation of truth. You get to grow. You get to meet new people. You get to see the different ways on how to answer arguments and how to treat people who disagree with you and what to answer and what verses they go to and all of that. You get to learn. You get to grow. You grow socially. You grow mentally. You grow intellectually, and you grow spiritually. Number three, the community shines a little brighter. Is it better? Is the community going to be better if you don't evangelize or if you do? Well, people want to be better when the gospel is preached or worse? Hopefully better. Romans 15, the last one is God is glorified. Evangelism spreads the God's glory. Romans 15:8 says, "Now I say that Jesus Christ was a minister of the circumcision for the truth of God, to confirm the promises made unto the fathers, and that the Gentiles might glorify God for his mercy, as it is written, for this cause I will confess to thee among the Gentiles and sing into thy name." And again he says, "Rejoice, ye Gentiles, with his people." And again, "Praise the Lord, all you Gentiles, and laud him, all you people." And again Isaiah says, "There shall be a root of Jesse, and he shall rise to reign over the Gentiles. In him shall the Gentiles trust." God is glorified when souls are saved. But if I don't go out and save, God has given you and I a task that he has not given anyone else. You ever think about that? He has given his people, his children, a task that you and I, or that no one else, no sinner, no organization, no group of people, and that's evangelism. You have an important task. Are you going to honor God with that? I hope so. I hope so. Do I have to go to heaven to evangelize? That's the question of interest today. That is absolutely I do. In fact, God will blame me. God will not blame. I will be condemned. He will hold my soul accountable if I don't preach, not or teach. I don't have to be a preacher to go to heaven, but I have to be a teacher. We'll close with Matthew 9. Matthew chapter 9, verses 36 through 38. This is our prayer. When he saw the multitudes, he was moved with compassion on them, because they fainted and were scattered abroad, as sheep having no shepherd. Then said he unto his disciples, The harvest truly is plenteous, but the laborers are few. Pray ye therefore the Lord of the harvest, that he will send forth laborers into his harvest. Are you one of those laborers? If you're a Christian, you are. And you need to go out and you need to do well in the harvest. Because judgment day is coming, and I don't want to stand before my Lord and say, Lord, I've never talked to anyone about your son. Instead, I want to have the opportunities, or take the opportunities to do so. If you're not a Christian and you're listening, you'd like to become one, please let us know. We'd love to be able to help you with that. If you are and you need prayers, reach out to us as well. Always remember to keep on keeping